Scrapbookers and creative friends. I'm Linda Patouk. I am a Creative Memories Independent Advisor in Jupiter, Florida. Today, our Thursday thoughts are about cropping photos. Thank you for tuning in. And when we talk about cropping photos, I want you to think about focusing on basically three different things. One, you might want to focus on the subject that are in your photos, the subjects of the photo, the person or a sculpture or a plant or an animal, that kind of thing. You might also be focusing on scenery. You could be in a scenic place and you want to focus on the scenery, what is around, even in your garden. I do this all the time. The third way is to focus on combining the scenery and the subjects that are in there. You know, a rabbit in the garden, you standing in front of a landmark on a vacation. So you want to think about those different ways and then trim your photos accordingly so that you get the maximum effect and get rid of all the things on the outside that kind of distract you from what you really want to see in your photos. Now you will see that after you learn a little bit more about cropping, you probably already do this now if you are an avid scrapbooker, but you start taking photographs differently. You'll hear a scrapbooker all the time say, oh wait, don't stand there, let's find a better background. And I'm sure if you've done that before, you're thinking, oh yeah, that's me for sure. You do learn to do that, but you don't always have the option of changing the background. You don't have control if a bird flies through or something happens that you can't control it. So that's what we want to talk about, how to get rid of those distracting things that are in your photographs. So sometimes you want to focus on a special moment. This page already had this decoration on it. This was a Secret Garden and it's a Fast-to-Fab. So it had this beautiful page. So I knew I wanted to put a very special photo here. This was a little juvenile heron, great blue heron that came into our fountain, our waterfall. And I wanted to preserve that moment. So you can see all I did was cut it in a circle because it already had that background and you are totally focused on that gorgeous bird. This is focus on the subject. That's one way to do it. Let me show you some other examples. So sometimes you want to think about the scenery and the subjects that are in the scenery. So here is an example of that. We were for our son and daughter-in-law's wedding in Portland, Oregon. We went to see some of the beautiful waterfalls. And of course it was for a wedding, so we wanted to go to Bridal Veil Falls. So I did get some nice pictures. I didn't really crop a lot because I want that scenery to show. But here you can see I'm focused. I have the scenery, I have the Bridal Veil Falls, but I have the bride and groom in there too. So you just want to sometimes be able to capture that. I really did not want to do much cropping here because of the beautiful scenery that was there. Let's take a look at something else here. Now here, when we went whale watching, joy of my life to go whale watching, I ended up getting postcards. You've probably done that too. Get postcards so then you get some pictures because I knew I was not going to be able to take photographs like this. But what I did do is the photos that we had actually of the whales that we saw, I didn't need to have a giant photo of just the water with a little tiny whale in the middle. So instead, I used the custom cutting system and I cut circles and an oval so that, yes, this is what we were looking at, but of course you don't see all that when you're whale watching. So instead, I focused on seeing their spouts and when they were breaching and so forth. That way you focus on what's important in your photograph. I have one more in this book. Okay, this was very important to me to have the scenery. Again, these are postcards. This is a postcard from before and after the eruption of Mount St. Helens, but we were there and we wanted to remember that we were there. So you can see that it's there in the background, but I make sure that the subjects that we're visiting are also in the foreground. All I did here, now this is printed 5x7, so all I did was corner round the edges of the 5x7 beautifully so you can focus on what's there. And it really does make a nice finishing edge to it. Here's another example of some scenery with Mount Fuji and our family in front of it in the foreground. So I wanted to make sure I got clear pictures of Mount Fuji, but I also want to document that we were there visiting Mount Fuji. So that way you can get both, the best of both. Not a lot of cropping, truly. I did cut the picture just a little bit to fit on the page, but for the most part, not too much cropping. We want to see all of that. So here's an example of not a lot of cropping. I actually cropped the mat. I didn't even crop the photograph because this gorgeous sunrise, I wanted to make sure that we could see all of it. Those clouds that are all glowing and everything. So I mimicked, oh, sorry, let me move that. I mimicked I did use the corner rounder because I had this scalloped rounded edges here, and it was in a circle. So I decided that that would help complement it and frame that photo. So I did a little bit on the map, but not so much on that photo itself. Here, these photographs were so beautiful of the sun. I did not want to trim them at all. I wanted to get, again, every inch of it. And if you have the space to do it, that's great. That's great. You can do that. Again, these are I printed these 5x7 so that I'd have a wonderful view of everything that we saw. So now I want to show you how I used kind of the feeling of the place that we visited. This was the aquarium in San Francisco, and we were visiting it, and it was, it was kind of dark in there, so we tried to take selfies, which didn't work so well. But what I did was I made a collage out of this, because I don't need to matte photos or show a bunch of photos of just tanks, tanks with creatures in it individually. Instead, what I did, I made that as a base and then put a photograph in the middle, so we had a collage with some subjects added in there. And the lighting's not great on this, but it's the lighting that reflects what was going on in there. So it made that worked perfectly for me. Now, you can do fussy cutting if you want. Hold your breath. Are you ready for this? Yeah. So the Walk of Fame. I found so many wonderful actors and actresses who I just love. So I decided I wanted to take photographs. And then after I got home and I was developing the photos, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? How am I going to do this? Well, if they're on if it's a star that's in the middle of a rectangle, it's going to take up a lot of space. So I just took the time and I fussy cut. Is it perfect fussy cutting? No, but as long as I can see everyone's name, that's what counts. Took a little bit of time, but these are some of the major ones that I took photographs of, some of my very favorite. It's another way to do it, fussy cut. Sometimes you want to display a certificate or something that you got. I had our backyard wildlife habitat certified, and I got the certificate, and I was about to do that. Well, wouldn't you know, serendipitous happening, this little bunny sat right in front of our certified wildlife habitat sign. How could I not include that with our wildlife habitat? So I just cropped it with the custom cutting system oval. I just cropped that out. So with the little bunny, thank you so much, little bunny, for making that Kodak moment for me. So sometimes you want to have, just to add a touch to a page, you want to add a little cropped photo. Now, another option is to take your crop photos and turn them into something else. So you'll see here, I may use the custom cutting system circle, and I cut out some photographs of my family and friends, and turned them into ornaments for our Christmas album. Now these were kind of like a border at the top on this page with some other photographs of some caroling that we did in the neighborhood. But on this one, I decided that I would do all of the Christmas morning, night before Christmas and the Christmas morning photos as our layout. This way, it's a little more interesting than just having, rectangles or squares on here. So I turned the entire thing into a giant double page ornament spread just by cropping them with ovals and circles, adding some stickers and some little embellishments. Now, the last example I want to give you is kind of a combination of cropping and of organizing. We were fortunate to go to Lithuania for our son and beautiful Lithuanian daughter-in-law's wedding. And while we were there, we went to the museum, saw the whole history of Vilnius, very old city the United States wasn't even thought of when Vilnius was thriving. So we went to this museum, and it was beautifully done. Old Vilnius was at the very base of the museum, and then as it progressed up, the times would change, and then they'd have features from all those different time frames. Well, I was thinking about, I took so many photographs, as you can imagine, gorgeous floor tiles and beautifully decorated ceilings and all these other features. And I thought, well, how am I I'm never going to remember, even though I took pictures of signage, I said, I'm never going to remember how to get them in chronological order. So instead, I clustered them. So what I decided to do, I did crop every one of them. Some I got rid of excess. You can see it's no longer a 4x6. I got rid of any of the excess information or things that were in the picture I didn't need, but I did decide to corner around them all, and then I clustered them by the beautiful room heaters. This is how they would, because it gets very, very cold there, and this is how they would heat the room, and they were gorgeous and ornate. So they were in different rooms. Can I tell you which rooms? No, but you can enjoy their beauty like this. These were some of the beautiful floors, gorgeously decorated floors. So I put them in a cluster. Again, though, I cropped them all the same way, so it's more thematic. Even though it's a different subject, it's still that same idea. And then I said, look up. I have 2 pages of the beautiful ceilings because they were all so ornate, so different. Some very simple, but others were just breathtaking. And you would miss it if you didn't look up. And over here, the windows were gorgeous. Some of these were original windows from the 500s, and just amazing. And the pottery and so forth, and the stairs, ornate stairs, doors. I mean, it was just amazing. But by having this, even seeds from 400, 500 years ago. But by having them clustered, you can really focus on the subject. Again, as you see, they're all trimmed and corner rounded, so it feels like it all belongs together, which it does. Of course, it's all from the same place. Some of the roof tiles. These, my roof tiles are very plain. These are very ornate roof tiles, just beautiful as well. So I have a couple pages of those. But it's another option for you, so that especially when you go visit a museum or something and you have so many of the same kinds of things. But that way, if you crop them the same way, this was actually 2 photos. This one was put on top of it because I did 2 photographs. I cropped one of them and then combined them together. But it's a wonderful way to combine them so you can enjoy all that beauty the way you'd like to together. Now I'd like to demonstrate a few ways before your eyes how we can transform our photographs by using the custom cutting system. Now, when I first started Creative Memories, we cut our photos into a lot of different shapes, and sometimes it's a little bit too busy. Yes, of course, you can cut them into hearts, and I still do that. However, mixing a lot of different shapes on one page sometimes takes away the impact of just seeing the subjects that are in the photo. So you don't want to go too crazy overboard with it. Now, if you cut a bunch of circles and make a border, like those, well, these are not photos, but if you had like little tiny photos or bigger photos and make a border out of it, that's a different story. But I would not recommend cutting every photo into a different shape. I think it's too distracting. It's very time consuming, and the impact of it isn't worth the time. So the custom cutting system has multiple different shapes. Today I'm primarily going to be using the circles and the ovals. This is the way I store them. I do number them. And the Creative Memory setup is so nice because you have a template that you don't cut on this. And it does say, caution, do not cut. You'll see my oval got a little bit cut. But in any case, you want to choose the photo that you want to crop. You can use the template. And all you have to do, this is the one that I want to, because I want to use this page layout. So I'm going to crop my photos to fit here. I want to put this little squirrel here. And you see it's covering up the mat. This was a pre-made page I made from a National Scrapbook Day, I believe 2022. And then little cardinal. I want to put the cardinal here. But there's way more than I need. This was a 4x4 block. And then here I have some grackles. They're too big for here, but this is kind of wasted over here. So I'm going to trim this down a little bit so that it'll fit on here. And in this circle, I want to feature my little national wildlife sign and this cardinal. So this circle over here, if I use my template, the circle, I could go out. I think I'm going to use the green blade on this. You can see on the template that it will still show a bit of the mat, but it should be able to fit the picture just perfectly. And when you use the custom cutting system, you want to make sure that you are using the self-healing mat to cut on. All right, let me just double check. This was the middle circle, circle number 2. I'm sorry, no. Circle number 1. Let me put this so you can see it. Okay, this is the smallest circle. The black line indicates the template itself. All right, and then the red line is the red blade. The green line is of course, the green blade, and the blue. And I'll show you. Let me just quickly open these up for you so you can see why they are different colors to help us. don't have to worry about measurement. You can just look at those lines, but you can also visually take a look and see. All right, so they are in order. Red is the closest cut. Green goes out a little bit farther, and the largest shape that you'll get will be when you use your blue blade, because that moves the farthest away from the track. And they do fold over so you don't cut yourself, because it'd be easy to do. So you can see this is the blade, the yellow is the blade, and then these pegs go into the track in here. So you can see the farther away the blade is, of course, the larger the circle or oval or whatever shape you're cutting is going to be. So for this one, let me put those blades out of the way for a second. For this little cardinal, I want to be able to make sure I can see. I think I'm going to use the smallest circle, which I numbered number 1. And if I do the smallest circle, the black is the template. Oh, and you have an inside, you can inside circles and outside circles. I'm of course not going to do the inside, I'm going to do the outside one. And because this is a 4x6, I don't want to go any farther than the closest blade, which is the red. So I'm going to cut this with the red blade. Remember, we're not cutting the template, but you can cut on this self-healing mat. Works beautifully. All right, so I'm going to put this down. Excuse my head for a second. Make sure I have it in the perfect spot. And then you want to make sure that these pegs go into that track. Once they're there, and you can feel if it doesn't go right away, you can know it's not. There we go. And the blade swivels. So you can cut this. And before you lift it up, I always do this and check and make sure. See, it's a little stuck over there. So I didn't move it. It's in the same space. Sometimes you have to lean a little bit harder. There we go. My scrap, and then my blades. And now I have my circle, which doesn't fit right on it, but I'm going to do this so that it mimics a circle, because I really don't want to lose any more of that picture. It would be too small. Now let's get our personal trimmer. And I have mentioned before that you want to make sure that you only cut photos with this one. If you cut photographs with the 12-inch trimmer, it will dull the blade. So use this for your photos. This is a better thing. Now, this is round, but these mats are rectangular, so I'm not going to corner around them. I want to keep on that same feeling. So I can definitely take some off the top. We're still focusing on that little squirrel. See a little bit of the mat. I think I'm going to take a tiny little touch more over here, not get too close to his little tail. There we go. And I do want, oh, this is kind of a funky thing here. Let's get rid of that white blur there. I don't think I want to take any more off of there. Now, of course, you can carefully measure, but look at me. I'm not, I'm just trimming away. There, but that's good. That looks good. And now our cardinal. The cardinal, and I did put these little things up on foam squares so that I should be able to tuck that under there. I'm going to be able to take a tad off this side. As long as I have the feeder there that cardinal is on. And it's 4x4, but I don't think I want to go. Yeah, I could. I'll take a little bit off the top. I'm going to go below 4x4 so that it fits on the mat. So I'm at 4 3/4. There's a little measurement right there. Just go for it, right? I'm going to take a tiny bit off, tiny bit more. Because it's already there, it was a little bit harder to measure, but you can do that pre-measure and then it works even better. So then I have my photos that fit beautifully in that pre-made page just by cropping. Let me get the tape run and put them down, and then you'll see how much nicer that looks. Just outlined a little bit. But just by cropping it, you see, you get rid of that excess, the excess subjects and things that were in there that were kind of distracting. And this would have been, that circle would have been too small for the photo I chose. So I am perfectly happy. I'll put it a little bit on top of this one like this flower is. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Just so the mat shows. Happy memories. There we are. Happy memories in my yard. And there we go. And that way it's on a pre-made page. Ooh, crooked. Look before you leap. Okay, there we are. That one's finished. All right, let's look at some other shapes now. Let's try the oval maybe. So now let's take a look at our ovals. I store them the same way. This little hoop. And I want to get rid of the excess on here. This is a night anole. It came to our yard. It's not my favorite animal because they do eat birds and baby birds, and they eat birds' eggs. So, and our little native lizards. But you know, it was in my yard, so there we are. So I would like to use, on this one, I think I'm going to use, this has 4 ovals. I'm going to use the smallest oval, I believe, because I don't want to get a lot of the extra area on the outside. And if we put this over here, I want to make sure I get the whole lizard. I don't need the entire tree, but it's beautiful to see how it camouflages there in the greenery. So I am going to use oval number 1. You can see the different sizes. I'm going to use oval number 1, and on this one I think I will use the green blade because it still leaves a little bit of space around there. So let's move this aside. Number 1 oval, green blade. So you want to place it in the center of what I have to pick that up. It's a little bit of a glare, so we pick that up so that it's in the middle of the space. There we go. Because it definitely did camouflage on there. And the green will take it out a little bit farther. If you remember, it was the green was the middle width. So let's get the green blade on here, get it into the track. This is the hardest part, but you know, just want to make sure you're in there. I know some people will do this. They will pick it up and put it in and then put it down. It's just up to you. So what's more important to you, to having it lined up exactly and leaving it and then finding the way to get it in there? You do it however it works for you. Okay, let's straight and let's go. Nice, as close to the edge there. And remember, don't pick it up until you're sure it's cut. See, what is with me? I'm not pressing down enough. There we go. Okay. So now this photograph, it was an interesting photograph. It's interesting like this, but when you remove all this excess, you really focus on the creature that's in here, the subject of it. Sometimes you might want to mix. I have 2, this is our corn plant, and when it blooms, my goodness, the blossoms are so fragrant. But anyway, I do want to cut this. I'm going to trim one. This one, I like to see all that foliage. Those are the leaves. I like all that foliage, and it's really centered nicely. So I'm going to keep that one like this. I don't think I'm even going to trim it. I am just going to use the corner rounder. This is our 2-way corner rounder, and I'm going to use the rounded section. Okay, see how it's a little change, but it's a nice little change. So now I'm going to take this one, and because this is rounded, I think it'll go nicely together. This is not the page I'm going to put it on, but let's do, I'm going to do this one and do the green again. I think so, because I really want to focus on these blossoms. This right here is our cinnamon tree, so I want to get a little bit of the cinnamon tree showing as well. So the green blade will go into it there. And remember, you can use the template to check if you're not sure, but I think this will be good. Plus, I cheated. I checked it yesterday when I was planning our video. So this gets a good portion of the photograph. There. Now let's take a look. It complements it nicely because here you can see the whole plant, but over here you're really focused on the flowers, which really brings your attention there. So that's what I mean by changing the focus on the subject. That helps a lot. I really love the moon, and I take a photograph every full moon. Sometimes I take it outside in the garden. Sometimes I take it through our transom window. We have this window, which I didn't realize until we moved here, that when the moon is rising, we can see it right there through the window. It's like an extra bonus to being here. But I do include it in my calendar album, and I don't want to take up a whole section of the calendar on that. So often I trim those photographs to make them pretty small. But now, if you've seen the new calendar setup that Creative Memories has with the calendar pages for this life, the punches that we have, our circle and square, the circle fits right inside those calendar pages. So it's the calendar blocks, I should say. So it's a really nice thing to do. But I'm going to just show you a couple different ways that I go about trimming these and how to use that punch. Take a look. So this particular photograph, I like it just the way it is. It shows my transom window, and I can see the moon, I can see the palm tree, see through the palm tree. So I like that exactly the way it is. There's a little bit of wall there. It's very artsy to me. I love that one. So that one stays as it is. But some of them need a little trimming. This is from the patio, and granted it's through the screen, so it's a little wavy, but I like that look too. So what I want to do here, though, is a little bit too much up at the top. So all I'm going to do, so you can focus more on the moon, I'm just going to move it down, and I'm going to get that last panel off of there. So now the moon seems more prominent, and you can still see all the solar lights. Now, if you do want to punch, these are our circle and our square that you can use that fit in our calendar blocks now, but they overlap the old calendar blocks, which is what I'm still using, but that's fine. So now here's the thing, though. When you're going to do that, you want to turn it over. I'm going to punch this into a circle. So you turn it over, and I like that, but I'd like a little bit more of the tree to be showing, so I'm going to trim off just a little bit of it, so I can make the moon in there with a little more of the greenery. I like that better. So once you decide that you're happy with where it is, when you punch, you want to flip it over so that it doesn't get stuck in the mechanism. So now, here's my moon. I need a blank piece of paper over here. Let's get a blank piece of paper. So these are our no trimming, a little bit of trim. Here's our circle punch. And I want to do these two I want to do with the square punch. Again, you can't always reach in where you need it to be. That was not the moon. Can't reach in. I like this, but I just want to really focus on the moon. So in order for this to punch, it doesn't go in far enough. So I'm going to take some off the edge. This is a 4-inch photo. So I'm going to take 1 inch off each side. I think that maybe I'll just do 1/2 inch to start. Let's see, 1/2 inch off each side. We'll see if I can get it in there the way I need it. I may have to take a little bit. Yeah, I need a little bit more off. All right, let's take 1/4 inch off. I mean, I probably could have just done one side, but let's see. See if I'm getting closer to where I want it to be. Oh yeah, I like that. Maybe just a little more. The moon a little more in the middle. So I'm going to take another little smidge off, like about 1/8 inch. Now let's check it out. Oh yes, I like that. That's perfect. The moon is the center stage. And there it is. So now they're a little more interesting. You don't need all the extra things around it, and you can focus on it better. Now it looks way lost on these pages, but I wouldn't be putting them on a blank page like this. This is just so that you can see them. But don't hesitate to use if you have something little. As a matter of fact, let me show you one more punch. This lizard was sunning itself on my shepherd's hook that I had in the patio, and I don't want all the other stuff around there. And to punch it, again, it's not going to fit. It would, the lizard would be cut off. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the bottom, and I'm going to cut some more off the side. This is totally useless. We don't need any of this. So let's cut that off. Let's see how it lands now. Ooh, yeah, that's looking good. That's hilarious. The sun right there is right in the sun. I don't blame him. If you were cold and you wanted to warm up, that's where I would go too. I'm very rarely cold though. Here we go. Now we don't have all that other stuff. We can just enjoy that cute little thing. And again, that'll fit right in my calendar, in my calendar blocks for one of our activities. Cool day in, well, cool for us in Florida, a cool day with the lizard warming up. Don't be afraid to use those punches. So sometimes you don't take the photographs, but you receive photographs that are shared with you, or you purchase them and so forth. And I want to show you an example of that. I have some of our daughter dancing, and these are stage photographs, so I truly had no control over how the photos were taken, but the importance for me here is zooming in on our beautiful daughter. So that's what we're going to do. Take a look at this. So on these, there's a lot of wasted black space there. And there are things on the other side, so I don't want to have quite that much showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit off the edge. And now this will make it, it is 4 inches, so I'm going to make it 3.5 to start. Let's see. And it lessens, yes. So that's better balance because we have about the same space on each side. Let's take a 1/2 inch over here too. Let's check it out now. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because then you can focus more on her and not so much on the blackness that was there on the stage. Again, with this one, it's the same thing. There's a little bit, you can see the stage lights, and that's kind of fun, but I think I want to trim that down a little bit. So I'm just going to take a little bit off the top. I don't want to get too close to their feet because you'll see those tap shoes there. I don't want to get rid of those. There. And same thing here. An awful lot of black in the background. So let's take that. Let me see. I think about there is good. And then you see you focus on the subject a lot better. Just by zooming, and you kind of zoom in with your camera. It's like a zoom because that way you focus more on the subject. Now remember, sometimes you don't want to take anything. Have a little funny edge on here. You can see that little white edge. That would be the only trimming I would do on this photo. Just that little trim there. The most that I would do is corner round. That's all I would do. Oh, and I do want to show you one corner round that if you have this picture of this rabbit, and it's in the middle of, it's just in the middle of the yard. It's kind of lost in there. So what I would do, I'm going to trim this down because I don't need all that. I want to see that beautiful bunny. I don't really care about all the other things in the background. Make it, I need a little more off the bottom. Take a little off the side. So now it is 3 by 3.5. We can do 3 by 3. Oh, I like that better. 3 by 3 instead of 4 by 4. And then, because this is a bunny and they nibble everything, I'm going to flip this corner rounder around, and I will take a little notch, a little bunny bite out of the corner. Because they truly do. I don't care what they eat in my garden. I love them. They can eat whatever they want. All right. And then there's our bunny. Now you can really focus on it, whereas before there was way too much to look at, and you didn't focus on the main attraction, which is that beautiful rabbit. So I hope that these helped you. One good thing about having digital photos is that you can reprint if you have to. Now, if you have heirloom photos and those kind of things, I wouldn't start chopping them up. You maybe could do a little bit of trimming, but I wouldn't. If you have one photo of your grandfather, don't start chopping it until you really think about it. As a matter of fact, a lot of those, I am going to talk about making a heritage album. I don't even adhere those down. I usually put them in photo corners, but that's another story for another day. So I hope that this helped you think about cropping. Remember, you want to think about the subject or the scenery, or a combination of the two, subjects within the scenery. Whatever it is that you want to remember and focus on, that's really how you should be cropping your photos. Get rid of the excess, the things that you don't need. You can use the custom cutting system. You can use our punches. You can just use the personal trimmer. Remember, this is designed for cutting photographs. The blade is not going to dull like it would. Don't use your 12-inch trimmer for photographs. It will dull that blade really quickly. But you can also fussy cut. That is time consuming, but sometimes a fussy cut is what you need. And I wouldn't do it a lot either, because again, it makes it kind of busy on your page, but sometimes there's something that you want to feature, like those stars from the Walk of Fame. I like the fussy cutting. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write them in the comment section. If you have questions, I will be happy to answer them. I do thank you for watching. I hope that if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, you will subscribe to my channel, like my video if you liked it, and if you have anything else you'd like to see, please put it in the notes and put it in the comments, and I will be happy to address, if I can, whatever it is that you are interested in learning about. Again, I appreciate your time. Until next time, have a good time scrapbooking and cropping those photos.